To home prices. Stay with me and I'll tell you.
You better get fired up.
Happy Monday. Hopefully you guys had a great Super Bowl weekend. I know I did, man. I'm addicted to football, so being able to watch that game, it wasn't a great game, but it was at least entertaining, right? So it was a lot of fun. But let's get into tariffs. There's a lot to say about this and a lot of interesting kind of things to go back and forth with. I will tell you, though, my education on tariffs is about 2 weeks, right? Once it started hitting the headlines, I started really digging into it. And it's really challenging to get unbiased data. It's either the left saying because Donald Trump wants it, it's the worst thing ever, or it's the right saying because Donald Trump wants it, it's the best thing ever. It's really challenging to get data that doesn't have a political bias in it. But I dug, and everything I'm about to share with you is based on my 2 weeks of education. So is there an education? Yes. Is it a massive education that you should start basing your opinions and future decisions on? I don't know about that. I'll leave that to you. But I'll say a couple things. Number one, the major tariffs, the 25% tariffs put on both Mexico and on Canada, have been placed on hold. So that is something that we're negotiating through. There was, from memory, I think there was a 30-day negotiation period where we were halting the tariffs and we were working on getting some different things done, right? So those tariffs may completely go away. In fact, if I were to guess, based on the impact they would have on those two countries, it's a massive impact, way greater than it would be on our country. I foresee them working something out. In my opinion, which again is an opinion, there's no way to find out if this is fact or not, is that the goal of the tariffs wasn't the tariff. The goal of the tariffs was to get these guys in negotiations, which it did. So we'll see if it's fruitful. We'll see what it ends with. But I think the likelihood of 25% tariffs being placed on Canada and Mexico are pretty slim. But we'll see. That said, I am under the understanding that there is a 10% tariff on China. And we do get different things from China that are very important to our economy. And a 10% tariff is going to hit them too, right? And they're going to retaliate and come back with tariffs on us. And I'll share this too. Go look at every president for the last, I think I look back 20, 25 years. All of them had tariffs in place on different countries at different times for differing amounts for different reasons. And we really did. I can only talk for myself, but we really didn't hear about it. It was never in the news. It was never something that, I follow politics and real estate and prices, and it's all interlinked. And it's so interesting to me. I believe I would have seen something like that, but I truly didn't even know what a tariff was. I figured it was a tax. It wasn't quite charged in the way that I thought it would be charged. I thought the country had to pay it, which, if I understand correctly, is not true. You actually, let's say Walmart's taking in something from Canada, and let's say that 25% tariff is in place. It's not Canada paying the 25%. It's Walmart having to pay the 25% tariff. So what does that do? Why does Canada care? Well, because Walmart's a lot less likely to purchase that item from Canada if they're going to have to pay an additional 25% on top of it, because they then have to turn around and sell it to us. And Walmart's known for being cheap. Well, if their prices go up 25%, what's the likelihood we're going to keep working with them? If another company gets all their stuff from America, and let's say it was 10% higher, well, now Walmart's 25% higher, you're going to go with Target or whoever. I'm making stuff up right now, but let's say it was Target. So you're going to go with that other person because it's more affordable. So the thought behind it, whether you agree with it or not, and I don't know that I fully agree with it or not. I think it's really cool that we got these two countries into negotiations. I think that's cool, but I haven't seen what the outcome of the negotiation is yet. So let's see. But if I understand tariffs, what it has the ability to do is it's going to push a lot more American companies back into a competitive field, right? Maybe Canada's sending us all a bunch of lumber, and local American companies aren't able to compete with those prices. Well, now because the tariff is 25% higher, hey, we're only 10% higher. We weren't selling because we couldn't compete, but now we can. They might come back in, right? You also might see, and we've seen this, Japan literally the other day, I put a post on this because the number blew my mind. Japan was willing to invest $1 trillion into America through a million different ways. But some of those different ways were they were going to bring manufacturing plants, companies from Japan to America, where there's going to be a tax base in America, right? Why would they do that? They would do that because it's going to lower costs to be able to be here. Maybe they don't have tariffs here, whereas if they're out of the country, they do. They don't have shipping costs. There's a lot of stuff that they're going to get rid of cost-wise by being here in America. So what does a tariff do? It attracts outside businesses to come here to save costs. Now that they're here, we can tax them, right? Not the tariffs, but a corporate tax, property tax. There's all kinds of tax. So it's created those things, right? Those are some of the pros. What are some of the cons? Well, like I said, Walmart, if they've got to buy a trinket for 25% more, they're probably going to turn around and sell it for roughly 25% more to us. So prices on some things may go up. So the big question here is it going to go up on housing? Because of the halt on the two major tariffs, and when I looked at China's role in our housing prices, it didn't look like it was major enough for me to be overly concerned. And even if it was, say 5%, say it was 10% of all housing, which I don't think it is. I think it's lower. And those prices increased by 10%. That means 10% of 10%, that's 1%. Prices might go up 1% because of a China tariff. Okay, big deal. I'm not saying that doesn't suck, but I'm saying it's not going to drastically take, numerous buyers that are currently able to buy out of that buyer pool. It's not. Now, I have heard that Canada and Mexico play a lot greater role in our housing, right? There's a lot that they contribute to that. And so that 25% tariff might have a greater impact. Now, it might also price some Canadian and Mexican companies out of the market, like I said. And instead of that 25% increase on pick your thing, it's going to be a 5, 10, 15% increase because now we're using American companies, right? And again, that's if the tariffs come back. Right now they're on halt because the intent, if I understand correctly, is to negotiate. So my concern over the tariffs having an impact on housing prices is pretty small. If in 30 days it comes back that, hey, we are moving forward as a country and we are going to put the tariffs on, it would be interesting to see if it's a blanket tariff, if it's not a blanket tariff, is it on specific companies or specific goods? Of those goods, how many are housing goods? And, do we have competing companies here in country that are able to make up for some of that potentially lost business? It's just a lot of questions that haven't been answered yet. And really, I don't think a lot of people are going that far down the rabbit hole right now because we don't know what the outcome is. So really, it would be a rabbit hole you'd be going down into until we see what the final negotiation looks like with both Mexico and with Canada. So there's my stance. It's not a very, solid one. It's certainly not black and white. It's very gray. But my concern right now is very low. If what I don't expect to happen happens, which is the tariffs come back on, both in Canada and Mexico at that rate of 25%, then yes, I'd want to dig a little bit deeper. But my concern, initially at least, would be a little bit higher that prices would go up. I would love to hear your comments on what you think. I'd love data. I don't know that anybody's going to go so far as to leave data in the comments, but if you do, I'm a data-driven guy. I'd love to read that data. I've had my opinion swayed about 13 different times on tariffs after doing all the reading that I've done. So I'd love for it to change 14 times by reading your comment and seeing the supporting data behind it. But anyway, guys, thanks for joining me here. I'm here every single Monday at 11 o'clock for What's New, What's Hot, where we focused on what's hot in the market right now, which today it's tariffs. I'd love to see you next Monday. Guys, have a great day.